Sounds like to me you have a motive and an admission of a murder.
So, Mr. Demons, you're facing 2 counts of premeditated murder, and the court does find probable cause.
Once again, Jamell Demons, better known as YNW Melly, is living up to his last name. We're creeping closer and closer to the date of his trial, and it really ain't looking too good for the murder on my mind rapper. We're gonna break this whole case down for you, and why some sources believe that Melly might never get out. Just bear in mind that while we can make our best guesses, none of us are lawyers, and at the end of the day, it's all up to the jury. Melly's always been a complicated character. He has an alter ego, he was raised by a single mother, and he grew up without much to call his own. To make matters worse, Melly joined up with the Bloods at a pretty young age, and he pretty quickly ended up finding himself in some tough spots. Back in 2015, he caught his first case. He got taken in for popping off some shops into a group of teenagers at his local high school. He got charged with aggravated battery and a couple other crimes. He ended up serving a few months in prison as a result. All the while, he was making music and distributing it through SoundCloud. He ended up linking with a few of his homies, and they started a collective. Those homies were YNW Sack Chaser, real name Anthony Williams, YNW Juvie, whose real name is Christopher Thomas Jr., and YNW Bortland, real name Cortland Henry. Now, you might have been able to tell, given the fact that YNW Bortland changed his name from Cortland to Bortland, that the whole crew was tied to the gang that Melly ran with. Ever since the music career started taking off, Melly's been caught up in various cases throughout the years. Seems like there hasn't been a year that's gone by without Melly getting mixed up into something. In 2017, he violated his probation and ended up in lockup until March of 2018. In June of 2018, just 3 months after he got out of the joint, he got caught with some smoke and a gun. And since he's a felon, that wasn't a good look. Then once again in January of 2019, he got caught with some more trees. That's just the start of his problems though, and it ain't nothing compared to what was coming. In 2019, the month after he was picked up last, he was charged with the deaths of YNW Sack Chaser and YNW Juvie. The whole situation was just messed up. Not only did he snake on his homies, but the specifics were even worse. So what really happened? You see, YNW Bortland and Melly were in a car with Sack Chaser and Juvie. Shots rang out, and by the end of the whole thing, Juvie and Sack Chaser were dead, or mortally wounded at the very least. So from here, Bortland drove them to the local hospital where they passed away shortly after. Melly and Bortland claimed that some ops had run up on them in a drive-by, but a quick investigation pretty much showed that something wasn't adding up. There were grooves inside the vehicle consistent with a bullet path from inside the car, not outside.
And they're also accused of, as you said, staging this crime scene to appear as though it was a drive-by shooting.
Melly eventually turned himself in, although the way he was talking about how everything went down made it sound like he thought he was being falsely accused. He made a statement on Instagram before turning himself in saying, "I lost my 2 brothers, and now the system want to find justice? Unfortunately, a lot of rumors and lies are being said, but no worries. God is with me and my brother, YNW Bortland, and we want y'all to remember that it's a YNW family." The post has since been taken down. To make matters worse for Melly and Bortland, Complex reported in 2019 that they were persons of interest in a case where an off-duty cop was hurt in 2017. That means Melly is now facing 3 huge charges. In this case, Melly and Bortland were standing in a crowd when someone threw a bottle at a passing car. Then the driver popped a few shots into the crowd, and Melly and Bortland allegedly fired back, resulting in the death of Gary Chambliss, the off-duty police officer who was driving the car. The big thing to remember about this case is that the death penalty is still active in Florida. They still do that down there. They also still do it in Texas, where Gary Chambliss died. So basically, it seems like Melly is facing life in prison at the very least if he's convicted, and at worst, a death sentence. This is a huge thing. This doesn't happen to rappers, like really ever, and especially not rappers at Melly's level. Back in 2019, YNW Melly's mom posted a video of herself crying and listening to Melly's music in her car after finding out that her son could face the penalty, and it's pretty sad to watch.
My soul in pieces, just like oxygen. Can you hear me, Father?
Another thing is that we really don't even know why Bortland and Melly targeted Sack Chaser and Juvie. Was it kind of an internal conflict, or did Sack Chaser and Juvie snitch? Was there some kind of personal beef over a girl? We don't know. And if Melly doesn't give a full confession, there's a really good chance that we might never find out. Either way, the whole internet has been kind of going in on Melly for being such a snake. People have also pointed out how crazy it is that when Murder on My Mind came out, everybody thought it was a banger, just a rapper talking. But looking at the comments now, seems like everyone realizes how insane the track was. It's not exactly like he's self-snitching or anything, but still. One commenter said, 2018, nice song. 2019, holy shit. Someone else said, everybody gangsta till you realize he has 2 charges, so he's speaking facts. Now that the trial's coming up, we can also look at the court documents themselves and see how good of a chance Melly even has beating the case. That being said, it's really not looking great. Looking at the affidavit, there are some pretty shocking pieces to this case. First of all, Portland and Melly's stories about what went down were conflicting. They didn't even get their story straight, but that's not the worst of it. There's literally security footage of them all in the car together. Also, in the search footage, you could see Melly and Portland both wearing some kind of satchels on their hips. They also got a search warrant for the vehicle and found a bullet in the seat Melly was in. Since the shell casing was found inside the car, the investigators guessed that they must have fired from outside after the incident, so that they could make everything look like it was a drive-by. The casing also matched the bullet used in the actual incident. The investigators then went on to interview someone who lived with the victims. He said they all left in 2 separate cars, and since we know they're all in the same car, this witness lied to protect Melly because he must have been in on everything. After the detective figured out he was all cap, he came back and showed him the video evidence and was basically like, you sure he wasn't in that gray Jeep, homie? Then this witness changed the story and claims that Melly was originally in the Jeep, but after that he got out and hopped in a red Mitsubishi. He said that Melly Snapchatted him later to pick him up, but they got a search warrant for the cell location info and figured out that that was also a lie. Then they broke out the dog. At first, they took the dog to the location that Portland said the drive-by happened at. They couldn't find any glass, any bullets, or shell casings. However, a little ways away, in a rural area on the shoulder of the road, the dog sniffed out 2 different types of bullet casings and glass from the vehicle. That's where they figured out where the car was stopped, and bullets were shot into the vehicle there. After this, the investigators did a ballistics test to figure out if a drive-by was even a possibility, and they figured out that there was no way. Later, during the autopsies, it came out that the victims were shot at close range, likely from inside the car. The investigators were also able to get a search warrant for Melly's Snapchat records. They found out that he never reached out to the witness to pick him up and get him out of the Jeep, as the witness had claimed. He also talked to his girlfriend 14 days after the incident that happened, talking about how Portland is the realest dude he knows. Investigators assume that's because he took him to the hospital and dealt with police. There's also a documentary that Melly put on YouTube. At the end of the video, he says he was the latest victim of a drive-by, but according to his story, he wasn't there. Like, bro, come on. A month after the whole thing, Melly also made a video on his phone where it said, "There's no regrets for the shit that I did." He never put the video out or anything, but he took it on his phone and the investigators got a hold of it. So of course, there's a lot of arguing that could be done about whether or not Melly was actually the one who organized the whole thing, but the facts kind of speak for themselves at this point. Florida state courts have also mentioned in the affidavit on the case that they do plan on seeking the penalty. Honestly, it's harsh, but at this point, that's the likely outcome in this case. But what do you think? Are there any problems with the evidence that you noticed? Tell us what you think down below in the comments. Oh, and if you were vibing with this story, you gotta peep this next one.